No, hold on. This is 5 minutes funnier. Hi, and welcome to 5 Minutes Funnier, the comedy how-to. I'm your host, Jimmy England, and today I want to talk about grand theft joking. The one thing that will make you a pariah more than any other thing on the comedy scene is stealing somebody else's material. If you start doing that, even if you change the words a little bit, people will know and you will suddenly find yourself not getting good gigs or maybe not getting any gigs. Now, there are two ways a joke can be stolen, and one is the intentional way. You hear the joke, you go, that's great, and you decide, I'm going to do it because I can do it. But you can also steal a joke inadvertently. And that will happen because you're around a lot of comedians over a long period of time, and you're sitting down and you're trying to write a joke, and all of a sudden you get this bright idea in your head and you will write it down. It will turn out later you'd heard it from somebody else. That does happen. And the reason I'm pointing that one out to you is not just to make you aware of that, but also to make you aware of the fact that sometimes it happens inadvertently. And if somebody suddenly does a joke of yours, the best course of action is to go and talk to them quietly off the side and say, look, I've been doing that joke for a long time. Would you mind not doing it anymore? Or at the very least, acknowledge that you got the joke from me. Now, nobody really has a copyright on an idea for a joke. So that you can go out there and you can do jokes about airlines and things like that, but you will invariably be compared to somebody else who also does jokes on the same vein. That being said, nobody has a copyright on a concept. And the best example of that is a comedian called Shelley Berman. Shelley Berman was a huge breakout comedian in the 50s and 60s. He did a routine on a telephone trying to report somebody trying to jump off a building, and he did a lot of stuff with the telephones. And Berman began to get the idea that anybody who used a telephone in their act was ripping him off. Now here's the irony of the situation. Shelley Berman was not being original with the telephone. There was a vaudeville comedian known as George Jessel who used to talk to Mama on the phone in vaudeville. Berman never acknowledged that that was something that was going on prior to him. He said, no, this is mine. This is mine. And anybody who does anything on a telephone is ripping me off. As long as you're going in a completely different direction with it, it's acceptable. But if you're doing something very similar to that other person, then it's probably not a good idea. Sometimes you're going to write a joke and somebody else is going to write the joke at the same time as you. There's no connection between the two of you. It just happens. And I have the best example of that I could possibly give you. And that is a joke that I wrote about people who go to Comic Cons who look at superhero movies not as fantasy, but as documentaries. And I thought, this is really clever. I like this. And I wrote it out. I hadn't done it yet, but I written it out. And about 2 weeks later, I'm watching The Big Bang Theory. And don't they use exactly the same joke? It was a first run of that particular episode, so it wasn't a case where I'd seen it. It just happened to be that I came up with the concept. Sometimes it happens. Well, I hope that was useful and that you'll continue to thrive as a comedian being a very original voice of comedy. I'm Jimmy England in the meantime. Please subscribe to this podcast. Please hit that little thumbs up button, the like button. Believe it or not, that does something good for us apparently in terms of viewership. And we need as much viewership as we can get because this is really for comedians. And that means it's a very small market that we're targeting. Anything you can do to share us, to bring other comedians online with us, that would be great. And by all means, please respond down below. We love your comments. Okay, I am Jimmy England for 5 Minutes Funnier. Stay funny, everybody.